Okay, here's the thing. I don't get why people message you. Like, you know how you put that questionnaire on Instagram for people to message you? Why don't people click in that little box but instead decide to message you directly? I
Because
don't
that
get.
little box only holds like 100 characters.
No, she only put like 3 characters, man.
Oh, then I don't know.
Idiots. Anyways.
Dietetics Anonymous at work.
Oh. Oh, you're recording, my bad.
You are listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon on YouTube so you can get notified every Tuesday when we upload a new episode.
You can also add us on Facebook and Instagram at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
Welcome to episode 49 called Love Your Bugs.
And not just the little critters outside, the ones inside. Yes, you have critters.
Yeah, we're going to get all into that today. But before that, let's dive into our new nutrition in the news.
So, this recent article that I found, it's called Too Much Ultra Processed Food Link to Lower Heart Health. So recently, the American Heart Association had scientific sessions that were held in Philadelphia, and throughout this series, they had preliminary research that was reviewed and presented that discussed the fact that ultra processed foods, which I'm still trying to grasp that terminology, ultra processed, which apparently account for more than half of an average American's daily caloric intake, and that itself is linked to lower measures of cardiovascular health. Furthermore, research at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, so the CDC, found that for every 5% increase in calories from ultra processed foods a person ate, there was a corresponding decrease in overall cardiovascular health. Adults who ate approximately 70% of their calories from ultra processed foods were half as likely to have ideal cardiovascular health as defined by the American Heart Association. And they compare that to people who ate 40% or less of their calories from ultra processed foods.
And then the past president of the American Heart Association, she released a statement and said, "This study underscores the importance of building a healthier diet by eliminating foods such as sugar-sweetened beverages, cookies, cakes, and other processed foods." She also says there are things you can do on an every day-to-day basis to improve your health just a little bit. Some of these things are, instead of grabbing a white loaf of bread, grab one that's whole grain. That can help. She also says try replacing a hamburger with fish once a week. Making small changes can add up to better heart health overall. But we'll add, switching up a hamburger and a piece of fish are not exactly the same.
They're not interchangeable, man.
They're not same, but you get the point. Like, there are small things you can do to improve
Right.
heart health. But we've known this for a while. Processed foods are not good for your health in general, not just specifically heart health, but
Right.
apparently ultra processed foods, they're doing more research on this, and it's a problem in the United States.
And apparently, ultra processed foods was defined as ready to eat and microwavable foods such as bread, breakfast cereals, instant noodles, chicken or fish nuggets, bleh, chocolate bars and candies, chips, and artificially sweetened beverages. I mean,
Hmm.
I guess makes sense, but
There's a spectrum too. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, the general message makes sense. We
right.
shouldn't depend on ultra processed foods, or just processed foods a lot because we really do want to focus on whole foods, which I feel like we've said on every single fucking episode that we've had so far, and yet people don't get the message.
Not
Like,
you guys, but like,
I mean,
you
it
know what
might
we're
be some
talking
of you
about.
guys. That's why we're here.
True, true. Yeah, just
So,
Whole Foods is the way to go.
So with that being said, I do want to touch upon this little I don't want I don't want to say incident or debacle, but a little event that occurred. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's a social media world. Like, who gives two shits? But in today's world, we'll just touch upon this real quick. And this is on my Dietetics Anonymous page. And I was sent a post by a follower. So I didn't go out and seek this woman myself, as she likes to claim people do. Her name is Diane San Filippo, and apparently in this post that I was sent, there was a picture of a plant-based ground meat, where she writes in all caps underneath, "Not an endorsement post," and then she goes on to say, "Do not eat this toxic sludge," in all caps. Um, okay. So I bring this up because she goes on and discusses the issue with it being highly processed, which that is understandable why that's a concern,
Mhm.
and people should eat more whole foods in general. Again, that's a good point too.
Mhm.
And they should eat, but another thing that she points out is that they should eat meat instead of this ultra processed toxic sludge. I mean,
Toxic
first,
sludge is a reach. Like,
yes, that in itself is a fear mongering term at best. I mean,
very
like,
visual too.
yeah. I mean, I think of McDonald's hamburgers like the pink sludge. I think of that as toxic sludge. Don't bomb it on screen. So, so first, I completely understand why this would raise a concern, but labeling it, as we said, as toxic sludge implies like a method that just goes beyond general education of the public. And as we know, we can't fearmonger people into doing things. That just never works out well. Second off, the product was probably designed for people that would like to switch to a solely plant-based diet, and this doesn't have to be from a nutritional standpoint, which is the basis of her entire claim in that post. It could be for perhaps ethical reasons why they would like to purchase that, and
Mhm.
ultimately, it is the consumer's decision if they want to do that.
Mhm.
And obviously, this product will help them ease into transitioning into that solely plant-based food.
Mhm.
I mean, additionally, it's also important to note that this particular product won't be eaten on the day-to-day basis. That's just something that I feel like should have taken into consideration as well.
Mhm.
Besides, go ahead.
I was gonna just say, someone who maybe is choosing to follow a plant-based diet for either ethical or political reasons, they
Hmm.
may like start by eating this every day as a meat replacement, but we've talked about this before, vegan and plant-based are not the same thing. So
No.
if someone truly is trying to follow a plant-based diet, even though this is a plant-based meat substitute, it's like not necessarily a plant either. Like
Right.
good it's a good tool, I suppose,
Right.
to help you transition, but it shouldn't probably be eaten every day because no matter what diet or what, you know, food you want to call yourself, like whatever diet or food pattern you like to follow, you shouldn't be eating a lot of processed foods anyways.
Right.
But
Right. And besides, I would consider like when I think of processed foods, like first off, let's just lay the groundwork. Anything that you like, a lot of the foods is already processed. As soon as you pick an apple from the tree, that is technically considered processed. So that's a
mhm,
very heavy, loose term to just throw
mhm,
out.
mhm,
And when I think of the most heavily processed foods, such as junk food, I think of chips, cookies, cake, sugary beverages,
mhm,
etc., that the new nutrition in the news refer to. And I feel like that in itself is a bigger concern
mhm,
than this toxic sludge that she's implying.
mhm,
I mean, and another thing I want to point out, I swear I'm not trying to be hateful towards this woman, but it's just the way she responded to me, which makes me
didn't you get
not.
blocked?
Yes, I did get blocked, and I'll explain why I get blocked. I feel like I was actually pretty mild, and I got blocked
You
anyways.
were. I saw your comment. You were mild.
I was very mild, and Before I get into that, I just want you guys to check where this information is coming from. I looked at her bio and she lists a picture of a piece of steak and she said meat eater. I feel like that gives you something to go off of. Like clearly she's coming from a biased standpoint.
Yeah.
So obviously she's gonna name this as toxic sludge. And personally, I mean I don't know. Anything is that's one-sided is never ever good. So that's why I say always check like who's behind the information that's being presented. And the reason I was blocked, um, I think first off is because I shared the post onto my story. I shared it, but I didn't say, "Look at this terrible post." I said, "Let me know your thoughts." Like that's what I said. And then I received thoughts. I didn't post any of the thoughts. I wanted to see what my followers thought. And then I went onto a post and I said, fear mongering is not the way to go, basically. And I would double check your claims before you post something like this. Next thing you know, I double checked the post and I can't find it anymore. And then I went onto my personal page just to see. And she posted this whole spiel, like 4 or 5 Instagram stories long about how vegan dietitians are after her, blah blah blah. Um, like people think I'm defensive. Well, of course you're defensive. You blocked me without answering.
Also, you called a food a toxic sludge. Like, that's
Right,
a pretty bold statement
and
and an attack.
right.
Like who started it, you know?
I don't know. I mean, but here's the kicker. She has 118,000 followers. So that's like what, more than 10 times what I have.
Yeah,
So, I
that's
mean,
that's
that's a
a lot.
that's a bigger amount of effect that she'll have on people. So, and from my standpoint, I feel like it's not right. But then again, social media, America, like you have your own free will to do whatever you want.
Mhm.
And um, I did not seek this woman. It was sent to me. Like all this stuff that I keep bringing up, it was sent to me.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on this. I just feel like when people put out stuff like this, it's especially in all caps in the bottom, like, please do not do this. It's
Right.
toxic sludge. You're basically destroying your body. Like, I just,
Yeah, she has those are very bold statements, and I think the principle of her post is not horrible. Like,
right,
I think what she was trying to get at was just saying, like, this is not necessarily healthier for you. And we've talked about this before. Like, when
right,
all Beyond Burgers came out, like, calorie for calorie, fat gram
right,
for fat gram, they're almost identical. I think the Beyond patties or the Beyond Burgers have more sodium too.
right,
So if you're choosing it for a health standpoint, it's debatable. But if
right,
you're choosing these products for either moral or political reasons, it's a perfectly fine substitution.
right,
But if you're choosing it because you're like, oh, this fake meat is healthier for me than real meat, that's a totally different debate. And I think that's what she was trying to get at, but she did not relay that message
right.
at all.
And there's just like this weird stigma that anybody that buys plant-based foods or vegan
Yeah,
foods, whatever, have to be vegan.
mm,
Like, or that people do it just to not just because they think it's healthier than
right,
meat-based products when
right.
people do things for a variety of reasons rather
Mm-hmm.
than just that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it's just another product. It's just another option for those that want it. Yeah.
and always check your sources.
Yeah. Always check your sources and just don't be biased. Like,
No,
try to present both sides, or consider both sides when making a decision about something. But with all of that being said, we are going to jump into the bulk of our episode now. So if you didn't already guess, this one is all about the microbiome. But
Mhm.
before we get into that, we just want to put out a disclaimer. So we will more than likely be kind of using the words microbiome and microbiota interchangeably, but there are very subtle differences, and I just want to point that out before we get into it. The microbiome refers to the collection of genomes from all the microorganisms in the environment. Microbiota, on the other hand, usually refers to specific microorganisms that are found within a specific environment. So, again, very subtle differences, but they are different. But just for purposes and simplicity of the episode, we might use them interchangeably. So just keep that in mind, okay? Don't
Mhm.
come for us.
Someone's gonna come for us, even after saying that.
I know, but just quick disclaimer. Um, so now we're just going to get into what is the microbiome. It is the totality of all microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and fungi, and their collective genetic material present in the gastrointestinal tract. This includes all bacteria, the good and the bad. So let's just talk briefly about what the bad is. So bad bacteria is commonly known for being like pathogenic or those that would contribute to disease or make you sick. The good bacteria are the ones that make vitamins in your GI tract, help you digest food, keep you healthy, support your immune system, things like that. We have both.
Mhm.
Um, we know that bacteria colonize the entire human body from your oral cavity, placenta, vagina, skin, gastrointestinal tract, but the majority of bacteria reside in your gastrointestinal tract, specifically anaerobic bacteria in your colon. So that's where most of your bacteria live, but they're everywhere. They're on your skin, everywhere.
So, to fully understand and gain perspective on the magnitude of bacterial presence and the potential effects on the host, the human body itself expresses 20,000 genes, while the gut microbiome expresses 3.3 million genes. So, it definitely went up your body. I'm just saying. So, so the microbiota only can weigh up to 2 kilograms, and one-third of our gut microbiota is common to most people, while two-thirds are specific to each one of us. So, in other words, the microbiota in your intestine is like an individual identity card. So,
Like your fingerprint or something.
I was literally thinking that, but that would be kind of unethical for police stations. But so, when looking at all microbiomes, a team of biologists from the Weizmann Institute of Science set out to review all the available literature on the microbe populations that live within us. So they found that a man between 20 and 30 years old with a weight of about 154 pounds or 70 kilograms and a height of 5 feet 7 inches, there was about 39 trillion bacterial cells that live among 30 trillion human cells. So again, it went up went up the human body itself anyways. And this gives us a ratio about 1.3 to 1, almost equal parts human to microbe. So so yes, according to the research, you are more bacteria than you are human. Maybe part of what being human means is that being part bacteria? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that would
we have a
explain some of the
lot
weird
of
stuff
bacteria.
growing on us. What?
I just said we have a lot of bacteria in and among us, so it'd be dumb to think they don't have a role in us, you know? So,
And not just in, all around us.
yeah, like they're everywhere. But with that being said, we are going to jump into what the functions are, specifically the gut microbiome. So, some of the functions are it helps the body digest foods in the stomach and small intestine that may have been difficult to digest. So, the gut microbiota largely derive their nutrients from dietary carbohydrates. So, basically, the fermentation of carbohydrates that were not absorbed and any indigestible oligosaccharides paired with different organisms in the colon result in the synthesis of short chain fatty acids such as butyrate, propionate, and acetate, which are rich sources of energy for the host, which is us. The gut microbiota has also been shown to have a positive impact on lipid metabolism, by suppressing the inhibition of lipoprotein lipase inactivity of adipocytes.
So another point is that it also helps with the production of some vitamins such as vitamin B and K. And I think vitamin K you specifically get from the microbiota, so something to point out. And specifically, members of this genus Bacteroides have been shown to synthesize conjugated linoleic acid, also known as CLA. So what that means is better metabolic outcomes for diabetes, atherosclerosis, lipid profiles, and obesity. And it also helps the body self-regulate and achieve homeostasis. So the gut microbiota, especially Bacteroides intestinalis, I know Latin now. So, and to a certain extent, E. coli and other bacteria also have the capacity to deconjugate and dehydrate the primary bile acids and convert them into secondary bile acids in the colon, which it's a good thing.
You want that.
You want that. I mean, that might be an episode for the pancreas. So the normal gut microbiota has been known to contribute to higher energy metabolism. That's another reason why you want to make sure everything down there is going pretty good. Or I guess in you. But anyways.
Right. Other things that your gut does is it helps with drug metabolism. It also helps us combat aggressions from other microorganisms. It just kind of helps maintain the wellness of your whole intestinal mucosa. It plays an important role in your immune system, kind of acting as a barrier effect. It helps fight off the invasive pathogenic organisms, also known as like the bad bacteria. A healthy and balanced gut microbiota is key to ensuring proper digestive functioning, as we mentioned with the, vitamin production and energy metabolism. Taking into account the major role that microbiota plays in the normal functioning of the body and the different functions it accomplishes, experts nowadays actually consider it as an organ within itself, but it's also considered an acquired organ, as babies are actually born sterile.
Hmm. Okay. So with that being said, what influences the microbiome and how does it evolve? So intestine colonization starts right after birth and evolves as we grow. So vaginal birth versus C-section birth have a lot to do with this. Like as you go, I'm not going to do like a graphic representation, but basically, um, like when you have vaginal births, babies go through the vaginal canal where they pick up different bacteria that would go ahead and protect the baby. Versus C-sections, they don't go through the vaginal canal and they're not able to pick up those bacteria that it would have come across if it had that other birth. So the newborn's digestive tract is quickly colonized by microorganisms from the mother. Like I said, the vaginal canal, the fecal matter, which may be new, skin, breast, etc. Then basically the environment in which the delivery takes place, the air, etc. So from the third day, the composition of the intestinal flora is directly dependent on how the infant is fed. So breastfed babies' gut microbiota, for example, is mainly dominated by bacteria called bifidobacteria, and compared to babies nourished with infant formulas that may not have that. So scientists consider that by the age of 3, the microbiota becomes stable and similar to that of adults, continuing its evolution at steady, more steady rate throughout the rest of their lifetime. So the gut microbiota's balance can be affected during the aging process, and consequently, the elderly have substantially different microbiota to younger adults as they go through their lifetime as well.
hmm So, while the general composition of the intestinal microbiota is similar in most healthy people, the species composition is highly personalized and dependent on our environment and our diet. So, diet does continue to be the most important determinant in shaping the composition when you have diversity and richness throughout your adulthood in your diet. So, in general, intake of a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and fibers I think we've said this before, is
Fiber.
yeah, your whole foods.
Hmm.
So these types of foods, when you have diversity and richness, it influences positively your gut microbiota. So the composition of your gut microbiota may be accustomed to dietary components, either temporary or permanently. Kind of what I mean by this, here's just an example. Japanese people can digest seaweed, which is traditionally part of their daily diet, thanks to specific enzymes in their gut microbiota that they've acquired from marine bacteria. So this is a situation where their diet heavily influenced which microbes reside there to help
Hmm.
them eat and digest a staple part of their food. So your gut microbiome can adopt change and it can, be flexible like that. The loss in balance of your gut microbiota may arise in some situations. This is called dysbiosis. This could come from being, getting some sort of illness or actually from taking antibiotics as well.
Yeah, the microbiota is a pretty complicated piece of thing. So it's really important to keep that thing. Why do I say like that? Just make sure you eat your whole foods and try to incorporate a diversity of foods into your diet so you can break shit down a lot easier and you can absorb it and be the healthiest version of yourself.
And that's why in the first episode of this series, we talked about probiotics and prebiotics because those will help keep your gut happy and healthy because you've got to love your bugs. They're important. You've got a lot of them. They take care of you
Well, yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah, they
Um,
do.
so, yeah, we have a very strong symbiotic relationship with all of the bacteria, especially the ones in our gut. So, take care of them.
Yeah. Or you can also get a fecal transplant, but
That too. Though that's kind of a new thing.
yes. So it just, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on fecal transplants?
Well, some people might not know what that is, so do you want to explain it?
Oh God. So basically they take some, I don't know if it's fecal matter or like
Pretty sure it is.
they take some fecal matter from someone and transport it to someone else's inside from that area.
Mm.
So unless I'm wrong, please correct me. But that's supposed to introduce more bacteria that's beneficial. So the reason why you would consider a transplant is if your microbiota is just that horrible that you need the extra help. But
Fecal transplants are becoming more and more accepted, even though it sounds disgusting.
it sounds very disgusting. But
It's
I,
actually um they've done research on it for helping with weight loss because as we mentioned before, your
okay.
microbiota plays an important role in energy metabolism.
Hmm.
Um so they're looking at, if you'd have someone who is obese and you take, a fecal sample or fecal transplant from someone who is at a healthy weight and hasn't really struggled with weight and do a fecal transplant into the obese person, they've seen promising results that, someone who is obese can actually achieve a healthier
Right.
when in combination of other diet and exercise and lifestyle strategies.
Basically, all people heard from us right now is do a fecal transplant. Let's shortcut it. And people are probably calling the insurance companies right now. Can I do this? Is it covered?
Pretty much. So, just something to keep your eyes out for. Next week, we are going to be talking about the gut brain relationship, which stems off of why the gut microbiome is so important. And this is yeah, that's a big, heavy topic too. This
It
is
might
kind of a
explain
precursor to that.
it might explain some things about some people that I know.
So we're gonna close out with our social media shout out of the week. It goes to at Emily Ray _vegan RD. She is an RD from Portland, Oregon, and she has a ton of yummy food pics and like recipe inspo on her page. So go check her out, give her a follow, show her some love, and thank you for the support.
Yeah, thank you so much. I kind of want to go to Portland now that I see that, but yeah, keep
Portland's
it weird. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope today's episode, I know, is kind of a bit like
heavier.
heavier, and we did introduce some new terminology into it. But I hope you do gain a deeper understanding as to why the microbiome is very, very important and how it plays a big role in our status right now. So, yeah.
Exactly. All right, guys, we will catch you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for a brand new episode.
Also, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
We'd love to hear from you, so please leave us a review.
5 stars, no less.
On whatever platform you're listening to, or send us an email at keepingitjuicypodcast@gmail.com.
Or if you have any topics you'd like for us to touch upon, shoot us an email. Until next time, don't do anything that I wouldn't do. 5'7" 7 inches. God, why am I like this? Vitamins B and K. So specifically those fuck me. So I'm gonna read it out part. So the normal gut microbiota basically are